We're almost across.
There is a village in Arizona that most Americans have never heard of. It sits at the bottom of a canyon 8 miles from the nearest road. You cannot drive there. You cannot take a train. You cannot simply arrive. To reach it, you walk 8 miles down into the earth, descending 2,000 feet through layers of rock that are 500 million years old. Or you ride a mule, or you take a helicopter, if the weather permits, and the tribe allows it. Every weekday, the United States Postal Service sends a mule train down this canyon. 10 to 22 mules. 1 wrangler, 3 hours down, 5 hours back up. It has been doing this since the 1930s, because this is the only place in the United States where the mail still comes by mule. This is Supai, Arizona, the capital of the Havasupai Nation. Population, 208. Altitude, 3,195 feet. Official designation from the United States Department of Agriculture, the most remote community in the contiguous United States. And it has been here in this canyon for over 1,000 years. Stay with us. Because what the Havasupai have built in the most inaccessible corner of this country will change the way you see both the canyon and the idea of home.
Careful near the edge.
The name Havasupai means people of the blue-green waters. It is not a poetic title. It is a geographical fact. Beneath the canyon floor, a limestone aquifer filters water through hundreds of feet of rock and emerges at a spring above the village. The water that comes out of that spring is a color that photographs cannot accurately reproduce. Not blue, not green. A specific, luminous turquoise that comes from the calcium carbonate dissolved in the water, the same mineral that formed the canyon walls around it. This water has been flowing here since long before the United States existed, long before European contact, long before the canyon had an English name, and the Havasupai have been here as long as anyone knows. Archaeological evidence places them in this canyon for at least 800 years. Oral tradition reaches further back than that. They farmed the floodplain of Havasu Creek with corn, squash, and beans. They hunted the plateau above in winter. They returned to the canyon in spring. This seasonal movement, up to the plateau in winter, down to the canyon in summer, was their life for centuries, until 1882, when the federal government formally established the Havasupai Reservation within the canyon, reducing a territory that once spanned nearly 1 million acres to a reservation of 518 acres. 518 acres. For a people who had lived across an entire plateau and canyon system for a millennium. The plateau was gone. The winter hunting grounds were gone. What remained was the canyon, and the spring, and the water, which, it turned out, was enough. Every weekday morning, a contractor for the United States Postal Service drives an hour from the nearest town to a trailhead at the edge of the canyon. There, a string of mules is waiting, between 10 and 22 of them, depending on the volume of mail. The mail bags are loaded. Each mule carries up to 200 pounds, the weight measured and balanced so that neither side is heavier, so that the mule can maintain its footing on an 8-mile trail that in places is barely wider than the animal itself. The wrangler leads them down 3 hours, down 2,000 feet of switchbacks and canyon trail, past walls of red wall limestone, past the narrowing of the canyon, past the point where the blue-green water first appears alongside the trail. The mail arrives. It is unloaded at the village post office. Supai, Arizona, 86435, the most remote zip code in the United States. Then the wrangler untethers the mules and points them back up the trail. And the mules go, alone, without a rider, without guidance. They have made this trip so many times that they navigate the 8 miles upward by memory. By the particular smell and shape of a trail, they know better than any GPS could map. 5 hours up, and at the top, they wait at the trailhead for tomorrow. The Supai post office has a special postmark. It says, Mule Train Mail. People mail postcards from Supai specifically to receive this stamp. It is the most unusual postmark in the United States postal system. A reminder that somewhere in America, in 2025, with satellites and drones and same-day delivery to your door, a government contractor is still loading mail bags onto mules and walking them down into a canyon because there is no other way. And because the people at the bottom need their mail. In 1919, the Grand Canyon became a national park. For most Americans, this is celebrated as a conservation triumph. For the Havasupai, it completed a process of dispossession that had been building for decades. The plateau above the canyon, where the Havasupai had wintered and hunted for centuries, became part of the national park. The tribe was confined entirely to their 518-acre canyon reservation. For 56 years, the Havasupai were forbidden from setting foot on the plateau their ancestors had walked since before the park existed. They could see it above them. They could see the rim from the canyon floor. They could not go there. In 1974, a small delegation of Havasupai tribal members traveled to Washington, District of Columbia. They testified before Congress. They described what the loss of the plateau had meant, not only economically, but spiritually, for a people whose relationship to a specific landscape was not separable from their identity. Congress listened. In January 1975, President Gerald Ford signed the Grand Canyon National Park Enlargement Act. It returned 188,077 acres of plateau land to the Havasupai tribe, from 518 acres to 188,595. Not the full 1,000,000 acres that had been theirs before, but enough. The plateau was back, the winter grazing lands, the hunting grounds, the places where ceremonies had been held and could be held again. Barry Goldwater, the Arizona senator who had fought for the land return, called it one of the most important pieces of legislation he had worked on in his career. The Havasupai called it what it was, a beginning. Here is what daily life looks like in Supai, Arizona today. The children attend Havasupai Elementary School, kindergarten through 8th grade. One school, all grades together, run by the Bureau of Indian Education. When they finish 8th grade, they leave the canyon. There is no high school in Supai. 9th grade means boarding school, somewhere else, above the rim, in a world that moves faster and louder and differently from the only world they have known. Some come back, some do not. The 208 people who currently live in Supai do so in a village that has no fast food restaurant, no chain store, no traffic light, no gas station. Everything that cannot be grown, raised, or made here must come down the trail, on a mule, or in a helicopter, or on someone's back. A case of bottled water costs significantly more here than it does at a Phoenix supermarket because of what it cost to carry it down. The tribe operates a small store with basic supplies, a cafe with limited hours, the one lodge, and yet there are children running along the creek bank, elders sitting in the shade of cottonwood trees, horses in a paddock, the sound of Havasupai being spoken by people who have kept it alive through everything that has been done to diminish it. The Havasupai language is still spoken in Supai. It is taught in the school. Elders teach it to children. It is the language of a people who have been here for 1,000 years and intend to remain. Two miles below Supai village, the creek drops off the edge of a travertine ledge, 100 feet, into a pool. And that pool, and the water in it, is the reason that people come here from every country on earth and describe it as the most beautiful thing they have ever seen. The color of the water at Havasu Falls is not a filter, not a trick of photography, not an accident of weather or time of day. It is chemistry. The limestone aquifer that feeds these springs dissolves calcium carbonate from the rock as the water passes through it. That calcium carbonate, the same mineral that built the canyon walls, is carried in suspension in the water. When the water hits sunlight, the calcium carbonate particles scatter the light in a way that produces that specific, luminous, impossible turquoise. The same process that creates the color of certain Caribbean lagoons. The same process behind certain alpine lakes. But here, in a red rock canyon in Arizona, surrounded by walls of Supai sandstone and red wall limestone, it looks like it should not exist, like someone made a mistake, like the wrong color was placed in the wrong landscape. And the contrast between the red of the canyon and the turquoise of the water is so extreme, so visually absolute, that the human eye simply does not know what to do with it, except stare. There are 4 major falls on Havasu Creek. Navajo Falls, 50 feet. Havasu Falls, 100 feet. The one in every photograph. The one that people plan years to see. Mooney Falls, 200 feet. Taller than Niagara. Named for a prospector named Daniel Mooney, who fell to his death here in 1880, attempting to descend the cliff face. The Havasupai had been swimming in that pool for centuries before he arrived. And Beaver Falls, further downstream. 4 miles of turquoise creek and travertine terraces and blue pools for those who walk all the way to the end. The Havasupai do not call these their waterfalls. They do not need to. They simply call this home. People who visit Supai describe the same experience on the walk out. Not relief, not the satisfaction of completing a difficult hike. Something closer to loss. The particular feeling of leaving a place that felt, unexpectedly, like something they had been looking for without knowing they were looking. What the canyon gives is not what they expected, They expected the waterfalls. And the waterfalls are extraordinary, more extraordinary than any photograph suggests. But what they did not expect was the quiet, the particular quiet of a place that has no engines, no traffic, no ambient mechanical noise of the kind that fills every moment of modern American life so completely that most people have stopped noticing it. Down in Supai, you notice its absence. The creek, the wind in the cottonwood leaves, the mules, the birds, the sound of children, and the walls, the canyon walls, 500 million years old, pressing in on both sides, making the sky a narrow corridor above, making the world smaller and older and more real than anything outside. The Havasupai have a word, a concept, that does not translate cleanly. It is the relationship between a person and a specific place on Earth. Not ownership, not stewardship, something more like kinship. The understanding that you and the land are part of the same thing. That the canyon is not a place you visit. It is a place you belong to. And that belonging, that specific, deep, 1,000-year-old belonging, is what the Havasupai carry every time they walk that 8-mile trail. Every time they receive their mail from the back of a mule. Every time they watch the water run turquoise over white travertine. Every time the canyon walls turn purple at dusk and the strip of sky above them fills with stars, as it has done every evening for 1,000 years. 8 miles from the nearest road, 208 people, 1,000 years of belonging. Home is not the place the world can reach. Home is the place that has always known you. So, would you make the walk? 8 miles down, 2,000 feet, carrying everything you need? Tell us in the comments. We read every single one. And if this showed you something about America that you did not know was there, if it changed the way you see the canyon, the mail, the idea of what a community can be, share it with someone who has never heard of Supai. Next week, we are going somewhere even more remote. Not inside a canyon, inside an ocean, the most remote inhabited island on Earth. 1,500 miles from the nearest inhabited land. No airport, no road, only a ship. And 250 people who, when the volcano erupted and they were evacuated, could not wait to go back. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, remember, the most extraordinary communities on Earth are the ones the world had to work hardest to reach.